Check out this beautiful Heart Platform box card. It's got 3 different layers on it of all different kinds of hearts. And the best thing, it folds flat and it fits in a 5 by 7 inch envelope. So let me show you how to put this together. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one sitting here as a reference. And I did go ahead and get things set up here. And I've already kind of laid the paper pieces above where they go. So I was able to sort out kind of what goes where just by looking at the actual file. Now I cut things out in the same colors that was in the file, but you could certainly use whatever colors that you want. And then the first thing we're going to do is just come through and do some paper piecing. If you did not want to use glue, these are bigger pieces, so I feel like the liquid glue is not that difficult, but you could certainly come through with like a spray adhesive, or if you could double side tape them, that would work as well. And then I'm just going to get them lined up here, knowing that there's going to be a gap around that piece. So all of these parts fit in very much just like a puzzle, which I think makes it a lot easier when you're the one trying to put this together, to know that it all just puzzle pieces together. And I think that just makes it easy to know they should all be flush. That helps you get things in the right place. So this is what we're going to do. We're just going to go through each layer and get things set up. So like I said, this fits in a 5 by 7 inch envelope. And you can see it sits flat, or not flat, but it stands up on its own rather, and then lays flat for mailing. The actual dimensions when it's standing up, I think it's about 5 inches tall standing, and then I'm not quite sure. I can't say that I've measured it, to be honest, but I know it fits in a 5 by 7 because that's part of it. I got to make sure it's actually gonna fit in an envelope. So sometimes I have to redesign things so that they'll fit in the envelope I want it to fit in. And then this one's just gonna fit around this heart. And see how they just puzzle piece together. They fit so nicely right on top of each other. The nice part about using the liquid glue is you do have a little bit of time to move things around before you press them down into place, in case you just need to get that alignment just right. Okay, so that one's done. And I'm just going to come through and do this with all the pieces. Just putting a little bit of glue on here. Nothing fancy about this part, putting it all together. And then I'm just going to try to line up some of these edges. I'm not really sure how far down it goes, so I always look at like this top edge and start there, because some of them do come down a little bit further than some of those did. So I always start at the top, and I'm just going to maneuver this to make sure everything's lined up. My glue will dry clear, so you won't really notice when the glue overflows. And then I can also come in with my weeding tool if I need to, and I can just kind of scrape away some of that excess glue just to clean things up a bit. But also this is like the second layer, so it sits behind the front. So as long as your front one looks good, and the rest of your screw ups, shall we say, will really get covered up. So I don't worry too much. This one's going to go here. And then when I do my cards like this, they're double layered. So I use 65-pound cardstock. And then with the 2 layers, that's plenty of strength for things to stand up nicely. I don't worry too much about the stability of it. And then also, it doesn't add too much bulk with just the 2 layers when you use a bit of a thinner cardstock. But 65 pound is usually my go-to when I do things like this. All right, and we're just going to continue on with the paper piecing. You can see I kind of alternate between if I'm going to put the glue here or if I'm going to put it there. I don't know. It's just personal preference, I guess, of where you want the glue, because ultimately all of these hearts will end up glued down, but more when you get towards the bottom, it's like how far down do they go? Okay. And then you can see how, some of these hearts are not complete. That's that cutout area, so they puzzle piece together instead of overlapping. They are kind of just cut out of the one before it. And that's what makes them fit so nicely together, is all that puzzle piecing. So like this one, because I don't know how far down it's going to go, so I'll just put that glue on here since it's going to go to the bottom. And you'll notice I did not put glue on the entire heart. It doesn't need to be fully covered, but you do need some good contact areas. And then if you notice later that there are spots that did not get enough glue, you can easily go in and paint some more glue under them. Well, this one needs to go that way a little bit, but it might be too late for that one to move. So I'm just trying to get that one finagled a little bit better. And then this is just my last little white heart, goes right here. These are great for Valentine's Day, anniversary, and actually there is little print and cuts that come with this file that goes right on the front, and I can't believe I forgot those. But there's one that says Happy Anniversary, and there's one that says Happy Valentine's Day, and those you can do either as a print and cut, you can do them as a sketch. You can heat foil them multiple ways, but that is a single line font text for you so that you can use it however you would like. So in this one, I'm just lining up that little V in the center there. That's my main focus, and then I'm just coming down on the sides, making sure those are lined up, and that's how I know this is in the right position. And I like doing kind of the center pieces before I do the cutouts to make sure that my little cutouts are going to also be in the correct spot. So this is probably the part of the card that takes the longest, is just getting all this put together. That looks good. And then just one more piece over here. After this, it's really just putting it all together, and that does not take long at all. Okay, I always recommend doing the paper piecing first because you can do it while everything's flat, which makes it so much easier for you to apply pressure and however you need to do it. That one doesn't want to quite, there we go. Okay, so there are our inserts. So now all we have to do is put together our platform base. You've got lots of score lines on here. So we're just going to fold down those score lines, give them a nice press to really enforce those. These are the score lines that are going to determine how well your card is going to fold in half, up and down, moving around, so that way it works well. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold all of these score lines on both of these pieces. That's the first thing to do for them. And then I have found, I think it's easier to leave those in two separate pieces. That's the part that wraps around. and then to just get them fitted on there later versus trying to get those sorted out now. But you could certainly decide for yourself which way's easiest. Okay, so here we go. We've got our pieces together. The slits here, this is 1 and 3, and then number 2 will go in the middle. So you get to decide which one's for number 1. Excuse me. You've got these are numbered at the bottom, and then you also have a score line on 1 and on 3. So we're gonna fold down that score line. So this is now gonna be the front of my card. I'm gonna put that in all the way as far as it'll go. I'm gonna pull that through nice and straight, and then our score line folded backwards. But I'm gonna go ahead and just put some glue around that number, and then all I have to do is fold this bottom up. Give that a good press, and then when you open it up, you'll see that that bottom piece folded itself back, and that is pressed into place, and that is the mechanism that makes this fold and stand up. And it looks like this just needs another moment to really get that pressed in. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing with number 3, but this time you wanna make sure that, so in number 1, you have the design facing you. In number 3, you have the flat part facing you when you go to put this in. Because if you did it the other way, then when you put these two together, then your card would be, you'd have an element facing the wrong way. So now I have the flat piece facing me. And to put that in, and then again, I'm just gonna pull that down nice and straight as far as it's gonna go. And then where's that score line? Can fold up on that score line, and then I'm gonna paint some glue on this part. And then this one stays folded up, and then again, I'm gonna fold that base up onto it. Give that a nice good press. And that's what's gonna hold that in place. And then again, same mechanism, working the same way. So now we're going to add number 2, and that's gonna go right on the base here. This bottom is gonna go flush with the bottom here. So I'm just going to put some glue on the back side here. And I'm gonna adhere it to, this was number 3, so I'm gonna adhere it right to the front, and then you're just kind of eyeballing where the center is at. You could do kind of like based on where the T is from the one behind it. And you just want to get that centered, and then you're just gonna press down. Sometimes you can stand it up and just press it down onto the table. Make sure that it's nice and straight. Flush at the bottom. Mine's leaning a little bit. Let me straighten that out. And then you can fold that card, that whole card flat. Make sure it's nice and flush at the bottom. Get things straightened out there. Give that a nice press. And then we're gonna add glue all across this. So across that whole base. But be careful not to get any glue on the T, like the top, the crossbar of the T, and only on the flat base. Or you could have put glue on this one. Now these two base halves are gonna come together. You can stand them up on the table and then just kind of pinch them on the sides. You can fold everything up. Make sure they're nice and flush at the bottom. And then give that another really good press. So this is the one that I always really give an extra good press, give it an extra moment. This is bringing the two halves of the card together. So you want to make sure it's really stuck together. So while this is still stuck together and in half, I'm going to go ahead and fold down all the score lines on these two pieces. So these are the wrappers that go around the edge of your card base, of your platform. We're just gonna fold these all together. Down all the score lines. So like I said, instead of going ahead and just gluing these into one big strip, I find it easier to do this in smaller sections. Each of these sections is a different size. This here is your longest side. That longest side is what's going to glue down right here on these small glue tabs. So I'm just going to come in here and add some glue right on these tabs. Just a really light layer. And then I'm going to line up the score lines here with the edge of these tabs. So you want to just center that on there the best that you can. It should be flush right on both, flush across that score line this way, and then the score lines going up on here should be at the edge of that card. And then I'm just going to give that some good contact and really press those on. Okay, so now you want to come around, you want to make sure if this is your glue tabs on that side, this is the edge that's going to go to that glue tab. So now I know this needs to go on this way, and I'm going to do the same thing on this back side. Fold down that glue tab. I'm going to apply glue on these two tabs. Okay, and then again, I'm finding that longest piece, which is this one here. You've got a glue tab, a shorter piece, the long piece, and another short piece. So that long piece is what's going to go right here. Again, lining those up flush across that bottom score line, and then making sure the side score lines line up with the sides so that they're flush going this direction as well. And give those a really good press all the way across. Okay, we are almost done. So you can take some time now and just do these while they're flat and fold over these score lines. You do, when they're flat, you want to make sure that this is going to stay flat. So yes, you will notice there is a little bit of gap here. That's okay. Because when you do it, if I set this up and do it this way, even if I did do it this way, there's still going to be a little bit of overlap on the edges here. They don't meet completely flush to that edge. Excuse me. So just know that, and you really want it to fold flat. So I prefer to do this when it's flattened out. And I'm just going to add glue to this glue tab. And I'm going to stick that glue tab on the underside. Again, thinking about that little bit of gap that's going to maintain there, so that way this will fold flat. So now I can fold that under. And you just want to make sure those are nice and flush all the way up and down. Give that a good press. So now you can also test out that edge, make sure that that worked well. If you want a bit of a tighter fit, you can press them closer together, but just know then it's going to buckle a little bit. It won't go completely flat when you go to lay it flat. So I'm going to do the same thing on this edge. You could do them while they're propped up, or you can do it while it's folded flat, whatever easier for you. So this one I'm going to do while it's open just to demonstrate for you. There is that little bit where it's not going to completely overlap. And then I can just Give that a nice press. Let that really get glued on there. And then if you did want to double check it, make sure everything's going to fold flat. You can fold that nice and flat and then really get that pressed down. Ugh, I have dried glue everywhere. Stuck to my fingers. Okay, so the edges are done. Now you just want to test it out, make sure that it's going to fold up, everything's going to stand up nice and tall. I will say with the edges like that, I have found that if you kind of fold these a little bit tighter, then they're not going to lay flat, but you'll get a little bit of a tighter squeeze on there and they'll stand up nicer. But you also want to push it through this direction and make sure everything folds well that way too. This is not how you want to put it in your envelope, but you do want to just make sure that it's going to fold nicely there. Okay, so now let's add our print and cut element. Let me create that and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got these two printed. I added a point value to what was there and I did this like purpley blue color. They look more blue than purple. Oh well. And then these are going to fit perfectly on the front of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and just flatten everything out. That I find is the easiest way to work. And then you can either pop these up with some foam dots, or you can just leave them flat like I'm going to do here. And then I also gave you in the file just a blank one of these that you could use to either write a little message for the back of the card or to create whatever saying you would like for the front. And it's just going to center in between all of those score lines there, and it'll just center in there very nicely. This one says Happy Valentine's Day, and then this one here says Happy Anniversary. So let's put that on this one. And then, like I said, these will fit in your 5x7 card. And they should fit perfectly. So we'll just, again, get this centered on here. So you'll see this one doesn't fold quite as flat, and that's because I did, I put this strip on there while I had the platform popped up. So it fits a little tighter when the platform is popped up. So it sits up nicer. It'll sit up. See how nice that one sits up? This one is a little bit looser, but it fits flat, but it doesn't want to sit up as nice. So this one I have to like train to go up a little bit better before it'll sit up nicely. But there you go. Here is your Heart Platform box card. One says Happy Anniversary and the other says Happy Valentine's Day.